Hey, we're going. Good morning, and welcome to Salem Lutheran Church Sunday morning Bible study. We're glad you're here. We'll be getting started in just a few moments.
Well, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Salem Lutheran Church's Bible study on this snowy day in Worcester, Ohio. I'm so disappointed. God sent us some more snow. We got about an inch of snow on the ground, and I was just thinking hopefully spring was here. Oh well, only an inch. At least it's not a foot like we had the couple weeks ago. Anyways, today we are discussing Psalm 131. So if you want to turn in your Bibles to Psalm 131, and I'm going to begin by reading the introduction of my commentary to this psalm. It says, this psalm is titled A Song of Ascent of David. Once again, the Songs of Ascent, there's about 15 of them in the book of Psalms, and these were psalms that were sung by the pilgrims as they made their way to Jerusalem to celebrate the three high holy days, those being the Feast of Tabernacles, Passover, and Pentecost. So as they were making their way to Jerusalem to celebrate these high festivals, they would sing these psalms, and this is one of those psalms, and we believe it was written by David. Now, the common belief is that this was written by David on one of two occasions, and the commentator makes comment about that. He says, commentators suggest two possible occasions for its composition. The first may be when Saul hunted David, and David was repeatedly accused of ambition for the throne of Israel. If you know the story of David, he became one of the generals in King Saul's court. But the accusation was made by Saul all the time that David really wanted to be king, and he was ambitious and he was jealous and he wanted that throne. And David kept denying, no, that's not what I want at all. But as Saul hunted David down, and David had to go into hiding for several years because of this, Saul was hunting him down because he said he wanted to have the throne. So we think this may have been one of the occasions when this psalm was written, while David was running away, hiding from Saul, who was accusing him of ambition and wanting to be the king of Israel. The second occasion where we think this may have been written was, I'll read it from the commentary. The second would be David's in response to his wife, Michal, when she accused him of being vulgar and undignified after he danced in the procession of bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. After David had become king and established Jerusalem as his capital city, he had the Ark of the Covenant brought from Shiloh, which is where it had been in the tabernacle, and he had it brought from there to Jerusalem, where they reconstructed the tabernacle on Mount Zion, the plateau in the middle of the city of Jerusalem, where ultimately Solomon built the great temple to God. But as they were bringing this, the Ark of the Covenant in this solemn procession, the Bible says that David stripped off his clothes and he was dancing and leaping and hollering and screaming and celebrating the entrance of the ark into Jerusalem. And according to the story, Michal, who was his wife, daughter of Saul, if I remember correctly, that she thought that was really vulgar and undignified for the king of Israel to be dancing without clothes on in front of the Ark of the Covenant. And so some think this was David's defense, this psalm, defending his actions and saying there's nothing, nothing vulgar or awful about it. So the psalm really deals with the whole issue of pride, arrogance. Yeah, that's we'll stop there and say that. The psalm really deals with pride and arrogance. And so I think the psalm also begins by asking us a very important question, and that is, what makes you happy? What are the things that bring joy to your life? Some people would say it's having power, having control. And some people seek that, whether it's in their professional life or in their family life or as parents or as spouses. Power, want power. Some people say, well, what makes them happy is money, having all the money you need, be able to get anything you want. Maybe it's prestige, having people honor you when you walk into a room and saying, wow, look at it's Alan. Alan's joined us. Wow. Hey, we're so honored to have you here. Is that what makes us happy? Having people recognize us. I always remember how I had a kind of humbling experience when I first came to Worcester. When I was my previous church, I was in Belleville, Illinois, which was just outside of St. Louis, and it was a very common practice there that when they had a wedding, and at the reception afterwards, they always had a head table, and at that head table sat the bride and groom, and then the wedding party. And they always had a couple places at that table for the pastor and his wife, which I thought was kind of nice, honor the pastor and his wife by sitting at the head table, which kind of meant we got fed first. And then when I got to Worcester and I started having weddings here, I discovered that's not what they do. In fact, you're lucky if they let you into the hall for the reception. In fact, I remember one wedding I went to, which is the one that kind of turned me off against going to wedding receptions. They sat us, my wife and I, at the very last table in the corner. And so when they started letting people go up for food, we were going to be the last table fed. And by the time they got to letting our table go up, there was no food left. And so my wife and I had to leave the reception. I think we stopped at McDonald's on the way home and got hamburgers. So that was a terribly humbling experience for me to suddenly realize that they don't think I'm all that important. Back in Illinois, I was, man, sit at the head table, get fed first. Came to Ohio, and you're lucky if they let you into the receiving hall. In fact, I remember one time I was asked to do the prayer, and so I went to the reception hall, and I found out they didn't even have a chair reserved for me. So I had to stand leaning against the wall until it came time for the prayer. Then I did the prayer, and then I left because there was no place for me to even sit down. They hadn't reserved a spot for the pastor. So what are you looking for? Prestige? Well, how do you deal with being humble? Maybe it's having privileges. Maybe it's things, having possessions. What is it that makes you happy? This is what the psalm addresses. What is it that makes you happy? And the psalm begins by actually renouncing pride and arrogance, thinking that we're better than other people. And so the psalm starts out with, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty. David learned to reject pride, is what he's saying. David came before the Lord in conscious humility. He understood the principle explained in Proverbs and quoted twice in the New Testament. God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. In fact, if you remember, there's a story Jesus tells in the New Testament where he says, when you go into a dinner party, like a wedding reception, don't go sit right up front at the head table. No, instead, go and sit in the back. Why? Because it's better if you went to the head table and somebody had to come and ask you, step down, because that's not reserved for you. That's reserved for somebody more important. And you had to walk all the way back to the back of the room. That'd be terrible. So it's better to go sit in the back of the room and have somebody come forward and actually ask you to step forward and sit in a more honored place. So David is talking about arrogance and pride. So he's saying it's always better to come before God humbly, never lifting yourself up. So I guess I've established a golden rule myself when it comes to that, and that is that anybody who keeps telling you how great they are, I'm the smartest, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I do things better than anybody else, be very careful. As my father would say, don't lose eye contact and back away slowly from them. So if you hear of anybody in the church or any politician who says, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, I'm the smartest, I'm the most fantastic, I'm just so wonderful, back away from them, because you don't have to tell people how great you are. People should be able to see how great you are and praise you. You shouldn't have to ask for it. So that's what David is starting out with. Lord, my heart is not haughty. I am humble, nor my eyes lofty. I don't think I'm better than everybody else. So David is rejecting pride, arrogance. He is telling you to avoid those things. I always remember the movie Karate Kid, and there's an interesting line. I think it's in. I'm not sure if it's in the first, or I think it's in the first movie, the first Karate Kid movie, where the boy discovers that Miyagi, his mentor, who's teaching him karate, that he had won the Medal of Honor. He had been a serviceman in World War II, and that he had won the Congressional Medal of Honor, and he found it, packed away. And he made a special case for him so that he could, place it out and people could see it. And he didn't want it. He put it back in the drawer when he got it from the kid. And he says, "Why don't you want to display it? This says you're brave." And Miyagi looks at him and says, "No." He points to his heart and he says, "No, this shows that you're brave." And he holds the medal up. He says, "This shows that you're lucky." So what Miyagi was saying is, I don't feel the need to flaunt my Medal of Honor in front of people so people can see how wonderful I am. People should be able to see that when they look at me and the way I live my life and how I demonstrate the way I live and the things I do. So the moral of David in this psalm is, don't go around telling everybody how wonderful you are, how great you are, how spectacular you are. They should be able to see that. Always come before people humbly. And I've always been amazed at people I've known who have been great people who I've only discovered after the fact, because they never felt a need to tell me how great they were. That's what David is talking about. There's no need to go around telling people how wonderful you are, how marvelous you are, how you're the greatest at this, or the greatest at that, or the smartest at this, or the smartest at that. Because if you do that, well, what are you looking for? You're looking for people to say, "Oh, you're so wonderful. Oh, you're absolutely fantastic. Oh." And if that's what you're looking for, well, you'll get it. People will say that to your face, but that's not the way to live your life. Live humbly before God. And so then he goes on in the psalm. Neither do I concern myself with great matters, nor with things too profound for me. Neither do I concern myself with great matters. David learned to reject selfish ambition, and he chose not to pursue things too profound for him. He did not set his focus on promotion or position above what God had appointed him to. So the point is here, always approach life humbly. Always approach life with humble. Don't make of yourself more than you are. Don't concern yourself with great matters as if, oh, I'm so fantastic. I'm just so wonderful. Look at me. Look at me. Like I said, if you're looking for people to go pat you on the back and say, "Oh, wonderful you are," fine. But that's not what David says. That's not me. And then he goes on in this psalm, and he talks about his contentment with life. Surely I have calmed and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with his mother. Like a weaned child is my soul within me. Surely I have calmed and quieted my mind. Instead of proud pursuits, he's saying, David determined to find satisfaction and serenity of soul, content with God in his works. Those who feel constantly driven to do and to achieve more in their relationship with God should learn some of what David here learned. Like a weaned child. A child not yet weaned embraces his mother with the thought of food and immediate satisfaction, whereas a weaned child embraces his mother out of a desire for love, closeness, and companionship. Such was David's humble desire to draw near to God. So what he's saying here is I approach God not with what I can get out of God, not what he can do for me, but simply to be close to my God. And that's how we should approach all of life. You know, the people that I have always respected the most are people who are pretty humble. You know, the people who always want to tell me how great they are the people I try to stay away from. Those are the people that always there's always a price attached to that. And they're always everything they're in for is for themselves. And David is saying, no, I'm in it for God and for what God wants from me. So that's how we should approach life. And then the psalm kind of concludes. I'm just looking at how much time I have left. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forever. So this gets us back to what are we looking for in life? What do we want out of life? And there's a question all of us need to ask ourselves. You know, as I started the psalm out, I said, you know, what are you looking for in life? Are you looking for wealth? Are you looking for power? Are you looking for prestige? What are you looking for out of life? I always remember when I was back in Belleville. Belleville was kind of a upper middle class area of the city, of the suburbs, and the homes there were very expensive. I would say the average home out there probably cost, in today's money, I don't know, maybe $500,000, maybe $600,000. So the people who lived there were basically, management type people. In fact, I used to always say that when I served the church at St. Paul's in Belleville, I didn't have anybody in that church that you would describe as blue collar. The closest I came to a blue collar is I had one woman who was the wife of an executive, and she worked, I think, at J.C. Penney's as a clerk. She just liked working for there. So there are all these great, big, expensive homes. People drove to church in all these beautiful cars. In fact, when I parked my car in the church parking lot, I think I had the oldest car, and mine was like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old Ford. But I had the smallest and the cheapest car in the congregation. They all had these great, big, expensive cars. And there's 2 stories I can tell you quickly about how we learned to be a little bit more humble. I remember this one family visited us. And so I went out to visit them. And when I got to them, they had one of these great, big, beautiful homes, big, marvelous home out in the, like I said, $600,000-$700,000 house, and had a car. I think it was a Mercedes in the driveway. And so I knocked on the door and went in, and I was just shocked because what I saw there was the house was empty, had hardly any furniture in it. They had like folding chairs set up in the living room, and they had a TV set up on a cardboard box because they couldn't afford any furniture. They had spent all their money buying this big, beautiful home, but then they had no money left over to furnish it. And as I learned from them, they bought that house because they wanted to impress people with how successful they were. They would, by looking at their house and their car, they would see they were successful because they had this beautiful house and this wonderful car, but they couldn't really afford it. But it was all about people seeing them and saying, "Wow, wow." So that's one story I can share with you. And the psalmist telling us, don't get caught up in that kind of stuff. That's not what's important in life. And the other story I can talk about, which I've mentioned before, was one time we were at church on Sunday, and everybody who came to St. Paul's, I mean, the women all dressed up to the hilts, beautiful dresses and suits. Men always came in suits, ties, and boy, it looked just like a fashion show on Sunday morning. And one Sunday we were sitting there, and the door opened up in the back right before church started, and this guy walked in with 2 kids, and I think he had shorts on and just like a t-shirt. Kids looked a little dirty, but they had shorts and t-shirts on. They came, and the only pew left was way in front, and so they came all the way down the aisle, and you could see everybody turning and watching this couple dressed like that, or this guy dressed like that with these kids. And what are they doing? Who are they? What are these bums doing in our church? And they sat down and worshiped. And as they left, the gentleman shook my hand and thanked me for, for the worship service and said how much he enjoyed it and left. And I never thought another thing out, although the conversation in the church for the next couple of weeks was all about who was that couple? What were those bums doing coming to our church? Look how they were dressed. And about 2 weeks after the service, I got this letter in the mail, and in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope, it said Monsanto Corporation. Monsanto Corporation, their world headquarters for Monsanto was in St. Louis. And down big office building complex downtown St. Louis. And you'd see it every time you drove past the Gateway Arch. Anyways, I opened the envelope saying, "When am I getting a letter from Monsanto?" And in this letter, here was this letter telling me about this guy had written saying how much he enjoyed our worship service, and he wanted to give a little donation to our congregation. And inside the envelope was a check for $10,000. And the guy who signed it was the chief executive officer, the CEO, number one man at Monsanto. Turns out he had taken his kids camping to a campsite not too far from our town. And he wanted them to go to church on Sunday. And well, all they had was their camping clothes, so they came in shorts and T-shirts. And we had judged this man based upon what we saw. And so it taught our church a very valuable lesson about not judging people by what you see. Don't judge a book by its cover, as the old statement goes. And this guy wasn't concerned with coming to church and impressing people with how fancy he was. Here was a guy who probably had more money and could have bought any of us out. But he came humbly to church, dressed just like a camper, because it was important to him that his children not miss church on that Sunday morning. And so we learned a very valuable lesson on that Sunday, that don't judge people by what they appear to be. And in fact, after that, we used to have once a month we have what we call the Blue Jeans Sunday, and everybody came to church. No one could wear suits, no one could wear fancy dresses. They all had to come wearing blue jeans. In fact, if you came wearing a suit and a tie, the ushers were instructed to cut your tie off with the scissors. We were trying to learn how to be humble as we stood before God. And that's what this psalm is talking about. Hope in the Lord from this time forth and forever. Put your value, how you value yourself in your relationship with God, not upon things, not upon possessions, not upon the prestige or the honor or the whatever it is that you look for in life. That's not how to judge people. Judge people on the basis of what's inside. It's like Miyagi said, pointing to his heart, he said, "This is what makes you brave." Pointing to the medal, "This is what makes you lucky." So always judge people by what they are, not what they have. And that's the same story for us. What should we aim for? We should aim for a right relationship with God, to have good families, a good life. And don't judge life by the things we accumulate, the toys we accumulate, the money in our bank account, the prestige or the honor that we think comes our way because of the position we hold at work or in the community. As like I said, always back away from people who say, "I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest." You see those kind of people, run away. Somebody tells you they're the smartest in the world, run away from them. Somebody tells you they're the best and no one's better than them, run away, run away. Because value is found in our relationship with God, not in the things of this world. And that's what this psalm says. So David tells us at the end, I'm not concerned with what people think about me. I'm only concerned with what God thinks. And with that, I'm going to end my study and turn to Tim and say, well, Tim, what's going on at Salem this week?
Well, Pastor, we have the regular kind of things that are going on, especially today. We have worship at 10 a.m. Join us, even though it might be snowing outside. It might have a little chill in the air. It'll still be warm inside the sanctuary, so join us for worship. We also have a council meeting at 12 noon, and that'll take place downstairs in Fellowship Hall. Hope to see you all there that are on council. And of course, on Monday, we are currently planning on continuing with the Monday night meal at 6 o'clock, all kind of depending on the weather. 6 o'clock, NFL, Nourishment, Fellowship, and Learning. The Nourishment and Fellowship starts at 6 o'clock and goes to 7. Then Fellowship and Learning continues on until we break, where we watch an episode of the Chosen series and then discuss it in detail. So you're all welcome to join us for that. We'd love to have you. Am I missing anything, Pastor? Oh, yes, I am. I'm missing something. Two things, two Bible studies that you need to be paying attention to. This coming Wednesday at 7 p.m., I will be hosting a Bible study with the point of it to get us immersed in the Word. The goal is to start the process and then support the process of reading the Bible from cover to cover, the entire Bible in 1 year. So we're starting that process during the Lenten season. Hopefully we can get the discipline of it going and then maintain it throughout the year, probably on a different day. It won't be happening on Wednesdays, but we're starting it on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock, and we're starting with a discussion on why should we be doing this? What's the point of it all? So join us for that on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. On Sunday morning at 9 a.m., of course, return here to talk with Pastor Nathan and to participate in his Psalm study, and that will be on Psalm 132. Is that correct?
Yes.
All righty. I'm handing it back to you.
All right. Well, thanks, Tim. Yeah, come back next Sunday for our Psalm 132, which is another one of the Psalms of Ascent. We're getting closer and closer to the end of those Psalms. I think we got about 3 more to go. So hope you'll join us for that Psalm study and join us for Wednesday Bible study with Tim, Bible reading, and join us for Sunday morning worship. Come and join us today. I know there's a little snow on the ground, but come and join us anyways. So hopefully we'll see you at some of those events. If not, by the way, if you come to Salem this Sunday, there's a special added attraction. I'm bringing some Girl Scout cookies that I bought for my granddaughter, and I'm giving them away. So if you want some Girl Scout cookies, come to Salem and get a free box of Girl Scout cookies. How many churches offer free cookies if you come to church?
I wasn't going to make that mention of the Girl Scout cookies because last time you brought cookies, I didn't see a box. It was all taken by the time I got back.
Yeah, but I'm sorry about that.
I'm not making that announcement now. I'm just not happy.
Well, I'll make sure you get the tag-alongs that you want. Anyways, until next Sunday, God's blessings, God's peace be with you. Keep safe in this snowy weather, and hope